other people switch on their videos or no?
I think you can start and people will keep joining in. There's
No,
no
but I
hard.
don't know. I only see you and I see the three of us, so I
Right.
don't know.
So the panelists, for a webinar, the panelists can keep their videos on since
Okay,
the attendee count is way too much for so many videos to take place.
fantastic. So only the attendees will
Right.
not have the videos on. Fantastic. Okay, so we have started. May I start?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening. Thank you for joining us, making us time to listen to what we have to say. I see we have about 30 attendees, even though it's been a very long day for you. Thank you. My name is Uday. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Nemmadi. There's Mr. Suresh, who's the COO of Nemmadi, and Ms. Divya, she's the lead technical manager. We are a startup that's been in the industry for about 5 years. We've been working on quality in construction. We help individual home buyers, and we also help resident welfare associations. BAF has been kind enough to invite us to be able to spread what we do so that other people also will be able to take advantage of the services that we provide. At any point in time, if you can't hear me, please let us know, Ms. Suresha, Mr. Suresha or Divya. Let me know if I'm not clear or audible so that then I can repeat myself. To the attendees, my request is please type in your questions in the chat box. We will then take cognizance of that and answer that towards the end. And we will go through every single question and answer them individually. Our talk will take about maybe 1 hour or 45 minutes, after which we are open to questions. My name is Uday, as I said, and we are from Nemmadi. Today, we will be talking about how and what we would do as a third party to perform an RWA audit, not only for new associations that have been formed, but also for established associations. As Vikram Rai had earlier said, what we call as teenage associations. What is required? So what we are talking about is why this is important and what is required. So essentially, we need to understand the electrical aspects, the plumbing, the civil, firefighting, and documentation. So I will take you through each of them individually so that we are better and clearer about what we say. In terms of electrical, when an RWA is taken over from a builder, right, you need to know whether everything that was promised to you is there. Then there are certain things that need to be given to you, whether the DG set has the capacity that was promised, whether it's 50% backup or 100% backup, whether the design is okay. All of this is done, and we do an audit to make sure that this is what you will get at the end of the day. Now that, and we also ask you for certain documentation that needs to be given to the RWA by the builder. Now, if the documentation is not given, what happens is we need to figure out what goes where, and that becomes a Herculean task. Whereas the builder knows exactly where things are laid and what the single line diagrams are and everything else, so that makes it easier for the RWA at the end of the day if things go wrong or something needs to be reviewed. So that is one part. Plumbing lines. This is we're talking about common areas, right? So we're talking about where things are shared between individual homeowners and are maintained by an RWA. Then civil aspects. So there could be cracks, there could be chips, there could be problems with dampness and seepage. Certain things may not have been done properly. For example, if there is a path that's been laid and is not proper. So these things can be visible, but also we need to figure out from the point of view of technicality whether it's been done in the right way or not. Because of the experience that we have, we are able to gauge and let an RWA know whether it's a new RWA or an established RWA as to what needs to be done. Then firefighting and documentation. So similarly, as is the case when an RWA takes over from the builder, it is the onus of the RWA to get everything done and maintained. If something goes wrong or if something is not done properly, it's then the RWA who is held responsible, right? So what we will also tell you is you need to figure out all these documents that need to be taken over from the builder. If you're an established, then you need to figure out if your AMC is in aligned, whether all the documents are being updated regularly, whether your maintenance is being done properly. So all of this we will help you with. And this is why you need to do it. Now, in terms of why an RWA needs to get a third party to audit, now there are a lot of things that a lot of people who live in an apartment complex and say, look, we can do it ourselves. Yes, all of us are capable of doing it, but as a third party, we bring in our expertise that we've done. So we are a sister concern of a project management consulting firm that's been in existence for over 35 years. We've done more than 1,800 projects all over India. So we know what construction is, we know what quality of construction is. So that's what we bring to the table. At the end of the day, the benefit is you get an audit, a third party audit, where we then go through with and do a civil audit, an MEP audit, a design audit to make sure that you are getting what you were promised and you're paying for what you get. We also will give you recommendations and suggestions as to what needs to be done. Because we use technology, because we use an app, and because we capture all of this using an app, we're able to give you statistics. That way, you understand what is your standard of quality of your apartment complex. And because the technology that we use is so versatile, we generate a technical report which is annotated and has got a description on it instantaneously. So that makes things easy for everybody to digest. And this is an objective report. It is not a subjective report. And we base our findings on the National Building Code, Bureau of Indian Standards, and practices generally followed in the Indian subcontinent. So that way, there is no subjectivity. Everything is clear and based on what the rule book says. And we bring in a lot of value to you. We bring in a lot of value addition because we're able to tell you what things are as a state and we make suggestions. We are not a judge. We bring information to you to take a conscientious decision. At the end of the day, all of this means that you will reduce your repair and maintenance cost towards the end. Because all of this is then, if it's a new apartment complex, your builder will help you get it done. And if it's already being maintained for a while, then you're able to see what things need to be repaired or needs to be addressed. Now, having done 15 odd apartment association handovers, we've got a lot of data points, as I said. So on average, there are about 1,700 snags. Out of that, about 1,400 are civil and about 400 are MEP, right? So that is a large quantum of problems that we identify. What I would request now is Mr. Suresh, who's got about 40 years of experience in the field, to take you through a couple of examples of major problems that are faced by residential complexes. Mr. Suresh, over to you.
Uday, I'm unable to see the presentation.
Okay. Can you see it?
No, not yet. Not yet. Yeah, now I'm able to see.
Okay. So I'm sorry if you weren't able to see the presentation. I will roll through the presentation once. What we can do is if you share us your link, email, or your phone number, we can share this presentation with you, or a link or more information so that you're able to educate yourself more about this. Over to Mr. Suresh now. Please type in your email or your questions that you have on the chat box, and we will get back to you at the end of this. And if there's any other query that if you want us to email you, please feel free to share your email or your phone number so that we can WhatsApp you also. Mr. Suresh, over to you.
Good afternoon, all of you. I'm Suresh. I'm COO of Nemmadi, and I have more than 40 years of experience in construction industry. And these are some of the observations what you have made while we have been inspecting and going through the older apartment complexes. The photo here depicts a construction joint not being done properly. And if you see, look at the top right-hand corner, there's some cracks have developed. And here the main issue is not just the cracks and how to cover them up. And once the cracks develop, the water gets percolated during rainy season and will affect the reinforcement which is inside the concrete. And this will set in a corrosion cycle which becomes vicious and increases rapidly over a period of time and brings down the durability of the building over a period of time. That's more concerning than just covering the cracks. The next slide, please. Here, if you look at this, this is exactly a shaft where all these plumbing lines are running. You can't see the shaft because the shaft was open to sky and there was no proper arrangement for things not the rainwater not to enter. And the rainwater, what was entering inside, was falling on the cars which are parked below. This is a view from the basement. And here, what happens is, if you unfortunately park your car, or your parking slot is below that, all the rainwater as well as any dirty water leaking out of the plumbing pipe was falling. And unfortunately, they had to make a makeshift arrangement of creating a tray wherein all the fallen water falls. And if you look at the bottom, there is a small pipe which is coming down. So the water comes to one side. But it's not a permanent solution as such, but this is a sort of accommodation that has been done. These things are required to be addressed in the long run. Next slide. This is another classic case of an exhaust of a STP. STP is nothing but sewage treatment plant, where the exhaust, as you know, this STP gives out all obnoxious and corrosive gases, which when is left out improperly like this, the whole duct was corroded. And not only the duct was corroded, the concrete surrounding the duct is also corroded. Gradually, this corrosion cycle sets in and destroys the reinforcement over a period of time. These things need to be tackled in time, like they say, stitching time saves 9. This is to be done. Next. There's another case of earthing not done for the glands. All of you know that the machinery or the transformer is actually view from a transformer yard of a complex where the incoming cables are joined to the main body. Usually people are happy with connecting earth wire to the body of the genset or the transformer yard. But as per the code, electrical code, we have to earth even the glands which are entering into the body. That has been not been done here. That actually serious lapse, and normally it is not noticed. So only with an experienced person will be able to notice and set it right. Next. This is another case of the panel board wiring inside an electrical room of an apartment complex. These are the actual shots. If you look at this wire, it looks, I just jokingly call it as pot of noodles. God knows which wire is going where. And this is how the wirings are maintained. In case of an emergency, we just will not be able to trace any particular wire and rectify it. God forbid something goes wrong and there is a short circuit. It becomes a hell of a mess. Next slide. Here is a classic case of firefighting equipment being installed. But if you notice it carefully, the wheels to open the valves are not fitted or it's missing. So if you think that everything is in place and people are competent, and in case of emergency, you don't know where to find the wheels to open the water pipe. So that's a very serious lapse. Next slide. This is a very classic case of what we call as the jugaad. There is a pipeline running below and there is a pipeline which comes from the top. That should have been properly joined to the pipeline in the horizontal direction. But when somebody is not careful or not been supervising, instead of using a standard joints for pipes, they just made a hole, punched in a hole and put in the pipe. And in case of any excess water, the whole thing overflows by the side and the whole thing is a mess. Imagine your car is parked below this in a basement and all the dirty water is overflowing like this. So these are the things which can only be noticed if you have an eye for details. Next slide, please. There is another case of negligence, I would call. There is a tree which was there in the yard and a wall is built over that and the tree trunk has not been fully removed. So if you look at the center portion, any day it is going to rot over a period of time. This nothing happens in a year or two, but over a period of say 5 or 10 years, this tree trunk which is left behind it will rot And once it rots, the volume shrinks, and the wall which is sitting above that will also shrink, and then there will be a crack formation. And totally, it will destabilize the wall which is built over that. It's a serious lapse in the long run. Next slide. This is an earthing strip which people think that they are connected properly. And if you look at that, it is a very shabby job. And this basement, some corners where these things are supposed to be taken and taken to a proper earthing pit, which has not been done. Only if somebody goes into the corner and take a look with a technical knowledge, we'll only be able to find out. Otherwise, somebody will think it's a strip of a metal and somebody will cut it off. So this will be a serious lapse because the earthing line is cut off if you don't properly embed it in the concrete. Next. If you look at this, the area where it is circled.
Mr. Suresh, we have about 50 attendees right now. Ms. Manath, do you want us to repeat, or will a lot of these have joined a little late? I guess they will have a copy of the recording a little time later. Okay, Mr. Suresh, please. Thank you.
If you look at the area where there's a red circle is shown, one pipe is coming from inside and entering the drain. Actually, this is a sewage pipe which was supposed to be taken over to the manhole and joined to the main sewer line. And when somebody is not noticing, they just left it over to the open drain, and this is a serious lapse because even you can be hauled up by the Pollution Control Board, as well as there is a serious the mess because of the dirty water flowing in the drain. Next slide. Here is a case of a panel board being not taken care of the proper instruments, and the whole thing has got burnt out. This is because somebody has not fixed an isolation transformer in the panel board, which is a codal requirement. And in case of an isolation transformer not being present, any slightest overload will result in burning the whole thing. If you look at the right side, the energy meter is totally burnt out, and the whole system gets disrupted. So this is a serious electrical issue and can also cause fire. Next slide.
Suresh, maybe you can explain a little more about the background and the consequence of this. Detailed explanation.
Yeah, this is a photograph taken from the basement of an apartment complex. If you look at the dripping water there, forming something like a stalagmite in ice, in ice formation, is nothing but a continuous drip of seepage water, which is coming from the top, and it continuously flows out through the concrete and leaches out the free lime in the concrete. So that not only takes out the lime from the concrete and spoils the concrete, and it also carries water inside the reinforcements. And the concrete has got reinforcement. Reinforcement means the steel rods, which gives the tensile strength for the concrete. So they get corroded over a long period of time, bringing down the building life. So we call it as the one which brings down the durability of the building. So, and nothing happens in a short period of 5 or 10 years. Beyond that, it becomes something which is irreparable. So going for a very serious, drastic restoration measures. So these things have to be tackled in early time, the moment you notice it. Okay, next slide. Here is a transformer yard of an apartment complex, and there are two lapses in this. First of all, transformer yard should be kept clean and neat and covered with a gravel layer so that no jungle or plants grow in that. And here that has not been done. That has been totally overlooked. And also, if you look at the left side, there is a cable which is left open, which is again a hazard. Not only the cable will get damaged, and it's a serious violation. And in case of emergency, somebody rushing into the yard will also have a trip hazard or a fall hazard, and things can go wrong in a bad way. unless these things are put back in shape. Next slide. This is inside of an electrical room in one of the apartment complexes. And normally the electrical room should be kept neat, clean, and with a rubber mat at the bottom so that people do not get electrocuted in case of any electrical issue. Instead of that, you can see a can of solvent, some can of paint, all inflammable materials stored in the electrical room. So this is a serious fire hazard, and these things are total no-no. And if somebody doesn't check with the proper knowledge, and people tend to store everything, each and everything in the electrical room, just like a storage room for the maintenance. And this is a serious fire hazard, basically. Next slide, please. Yeah, please take it.
Yeah, so we also have a copy of a redacted report that we can show you so that you can go through it. And thank you. We have about 50 attendees right now. A lot of you have shared your email ID and phone number. We will send out information to you next week, early next week, so that you can, at your own pace, take a look at things. Ms. Valli Srinivasan has asked us for a YouTube link. Yes, we do have a YouTube link. Divya, would you mind posting the YouTube link, our channel YouTube link on the chat, please?
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. So coming back to this, we have a redacted visual report which we can show you. I just want to, as a, what shall I say, fair means of telling everybody that this is a combined report of various projects so that we don't identify an individual project. And this is also done because of privacy of other clients. I'm sure none of us would want our dirty laundry be aired in public. So that's why we do this. I'm going to open the visual report and then share the screen again. Can you see the screen, Mr. Suresh?
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Is it the visual report?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you mind taking them as a cursory manner to the visual report so that, because it's a very long report, our presentation also has the link to it so they can see it, but you can explain to them what is there and everything. And I'll scroll as you suggest.
Yeah. There are a lot of questions also being put in the Q&A box. We'll address them at the end of this.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And this is
so as Mr. Suresh said, please ask your questions and then we will answer them at the end because we will wait for everybody to have asked the questions and we can answer them in case everybody's got a doubt. Thank you for asking questions. Mr. Suresh, over to you.
Yeah, this is a redacted visual report, what we call a quality audit report done for RWS. See, basically, there are two types of inspections that are done. One for the RWS, which are very new, who are just about to take over from the builder. So these reports help them to show it to the builder and take it over. And it will be done in two parts. One is the civil part, and then the other one is the MEP part. MEP for those uninitiated, it is the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineering. The civil engineering, I think, needless to explain, it covers all the construction part, and then MEP covers all the lifts, gensets, electrical room, plumbing, and other things. So there'll be introduction of the part where things are briefly explained in particular to that project, and it will be divided into, say, just for example, Tower A, Tower B. So there'll be a lot of reports. So like in this case, there are more than 56 reports for Tower A and B, and there'll be different analysis for the podium, the lift lobby, like that. And the causes and remedies of cracks are also will be there. Like there could be some cracks somewhere, some damage somewhere, and especially the basements are more prone to leakage. And basement leakages are a serious issue which need to be addressed over a period of time. And we also go through all that and give a remedy for how to address this leakage and the damage, not only in the basement, even in the building, other side, something like the pool side, the clubhouse, all those common areas. And this is the how the things are described and you go through. And even the communication shafts, the plumbing shafts are also inspected, and even the firefighting shafts are also inspected. And then report covers all these areas.
May I request that you give them an example of when we suggested, based on the National Building Code 2016, a fire stop for some of these apartment complexes, so that they can understand a reference to what we are talking about.
Yes, in one of the inspections, in one of the very high-end apartments, what we noticed was the builder had built a shaft for all the plumbing lines, but yet not, as per the National Building Code 2016, there is what is known as a fire stop. Fire stop is in a shaft, as you all know. The shaft runs from the basement, the podium, and then up to the topmost floor. So in this, what happens is, in case of a fire, the fire easily spreads through the shaft and goes to the upper floors. To prevent that, building code, as National Building Code has clearly mentioned, that the fire stop has to be provided at every alternate level. There's every alternate level of floor, the fire shaft, the fire stop. They call it a fire stop. It is a material which doesn't allow the fire to spread through the shaft. That has to be constructed. That was missing, and then when we pointed out, yes, they had a lot of discussion. Finally, it was agreed upon, and then it was, I think it's being already implemented now at this point. And this is the description of how it runs. Then comes the actual issues. These are some of the common issues faced. Something like when you're doing the civil inspection, we even point out any improper workmanship in construction, something like all the gaps and other things were left out. And if you look at this, the bottom, there is a gap and the window is fixed. Nobody goes to these points because they're all located inaccessible locations. Only when we go there for an inspection, we notice it. Normal walking around, people cannot notice that. So that's the value addition in this. And if you look at this, the shaft is left open. This is exactly what I was talking earlier. If you keep a shaft open like this, the fire will also move up in case of a fire. So this needs to be sealed at every floor level, especially when the electrical cables are passed. So that is missing in this. Same thing has been pointed out. Can we?
So since this is a very large report, Mr. Suresh, what we can do is now, we have a lot of questions coming up.
Yeah.
I think
just down. Yeah. I just want to show them that shaft one more.
Which one?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. See, this is the inside view of a electrical shaft. If you look at this, the electrical wires, the data wires, the telephone wires, the communication, all are mixed up. This is a serious hazard, because not only there will be electrical interference and the signal interference between the other link, and also anything can go wrong if the communication guy gets into electrical shaft. This is total no-no. Yeah.
Okay. Now we're having a lot of questions being asked. So what I would suggest is we'll stop this and then we'll look at the questions, and then we can also share our presentation to everybody else who is done. So I'm going to stop sharing and ask the questions so that you may answer them.
Yeah. Shall I go through the questions? There is a question from Mr. Guru. Vineyard Chrysolite. I think that's the name of the project.
We don't get a proper handover from builder. We don't have a proper document. Will you be able to perform audit and provide report if we request?
Definitely yes. There are three parts to our audit. The first one is the quality audit of civil engineering items. Then the second is the quality audit of electrical mechanical and plumbing items. Then there is what we call as a documentation audit. So there are a lot of documents which need to be handed over to the association once the builder hands over the common areas and the asset to the association. In fact, once the association takes over, they are the de facto owners of the project and they're answerable for everything. So they should have a lot of statutory documents passed down in a proper fashion to the association, something like no objection certificate from fire department. So just to give a few examples, and even the electrical inspectorate certificates, the licenses, and just to give one more example, which is mostly overlooked, like no due certificate from the vendors, because if some vendor is not being paid and if the association takes over, since they are the de facto owners, they become answerable for all the dues of the builder tomorrow. You can even lock up your gate, say that clear my bills, then only we can use it. So these are some of the things which we guide upon. It will be a detailed support from, and also we check one more thing is the design audit. Design audit is just to give an example, you might be having an STP and you would like to make sure that the STP constructed by the builder has adequate capacity to handle the discharge of all the occupied flats in the complex. So first we have to do a sort of a design and arrive at a particular size and finally compare that with the size that has been provided to the builder to make sure that it is adequate and can handle the discharge from the all the apartments. So that is a design audit. So it will be quality audit, design audit, and also documentation audit. These are the three parts.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh. The second question is, what is the process of handing over the STP to the association? Is the authority involved?
Not exactly. First of all, they should have got the no objection certificate from the Pollution Control Board. Then what they give it as a consent letter. Pollution Control Board gives a consent letter that's valid for 5 years. So they have to maintain all the statutory requirement and file the returns and keep it open for inspection. And when they pass it over to the association, so that becomes the responsibility of the association to maintain the same thing and renew this consent given by Pollution Control Board at every period end. That is every 5 years. So depending on the condition, they come inspect and then renew the consent that has been given, provided everything has been maintained properly.
There's another question by Mr. Vinayak Parkar, who suggests any suggestions on seepage due to structural gap. Mr. Suresh, we can give a basic answer which is encompassing, but I think a more specific answer can be given after the site visit. I will hand over to you.
Yeah. See, structural gap. See, when you go in detail, like civil engineering, structure is something different than the total completed building. Structure, what we mean is the basic, the concrete framework that is called as a structure. When you talk about the whole building, so then the structure is filled up with all the hollow blocks, the concrete blocks, and then it is plastered, and then it forms the rooms. Yes, there will be some cracks observed, and these cracks have to be thoroughly investigated just to make sure that either they're structural cracks or superficial cracks. That can only be known after a deep inspection, and the remedies are different if it is a structural crack, and remedies are different if it is a superficial crack. So all this can be concluded only after a deep inspection of the particular site and the particular spot. Hope it answers.
Next question is by Mr. Pramod. Would you be providing the precautionary connections checklist, exhaust gases for the treated water and for treated water for STP?
Yeah, when we do this quality audit, see, the STP has to be constructed in a particular manner as per the codes, the IS codes. So they would have said certain things. All this lacuna, if something has not been made up as per the code, I just showed you on photograph where the duct was connected in such a way. So if there is any deviation, if it is not done as per the standards, then definitely it will be pointed out, and and that has to be taken up with the builder to rectify.
There's another question. There are lots of properties which have. This is by Mr. Markandan. There are lots of properties which are B khata, meaning no sufficient space was given for fire safety and open spaces. What are the basic common sense activities that we can do to reduce the risk of fire, given that they can't change the building setup? I don't know if we can answer this in this without seeing it and having a discussion, because this is regarding fire safety. So I don't think it's wise for us to answer this. What do you say, Mr. Suresh?
Yeah, see, fire safety, there are a lot of norms to be followed. For example, in a high-rise building, high-rise is anything above 15 meters from the average ground level. If a complex is irrespective of number of floors, if it exceeds 15 meters, so then it is called
15 meters taken at
average ground level.
No, from to.
From average ground level in front of the thing, like in case of any disputes, they take it to be the level of the road in the front of the complex, and then to the top of the terrace floor, excluding the parapets.
Excluding the parapet. No, the parapet wall is not taken, so it's the slab of the top floor.
Yeah, it can be any number of floors, but once you exceed 15 meters, it is classified as high rise. Then the fire safety norms differ remarkably moment it is classified as a high rise building. For example, for high rise, you should have a space. He was talking about the small spaces left out. I don't know whether that is a high rise or less than that. But in case of a high rise, you should leave a gap all around of more than 8 meters, where the fire tender, a huge 10-wheeler fire tender, should be able to move around the building in case of fire. So there are some older complexes, it was not done, and then even I think they are doing some arrangement to break open something and then make a way for the fire tender to enter inside the complex and move around the building. And when the older complexes are done by where I know one of the most reputed builder who has done it, and those days the norms were different. Now the norms have been changed, and unfortunately you have to comply with the new norms. If you are aware, the public utility building in MG Road is a corporation building. Since it doesn't have certain compliances to fire safety norms as per the latest norms, certain things are not being allowed to use. If you look at the Vishweshwaraya Towers next to Vidhan Soda, that is one of the very remarkable buildings done. But the fire safety norms were not as per the contemporary things. Earlier, they had not made a fire escape exit. If you notice, if anybody has seen from the GPO side, if you look at that, they have been made to do a sort of additional steel structure for a fire escape. See, that is the stringency that is being followed, because the codes might not have been there those days, but now codes are there, and definitely the fire will not go by the old code or the new code. It will go by itself. So you have to have the fire safety things. So the site has to be seen, and it has to be strictly followed from the fire safety perspective.
And also, we also look at certain cases sometimes when we are doing for individuals, not for RWAs. We see that when they do the interior works of false ceiling, some of the interior designers, what they do is they cover up the sprinkler, and this is very hazardous, because if you cover up a sprinkler, it doesn't serve its purpose. So that doesn't come under the ambit of an RWA, but as something that we're sharing is that we've seen that also in individual houses that this gets done. That's unfortunate. Yes, please, Mr. Suresh.
Yeah. See, this particular case, one more thing I missed to mention, as another line of activity, we also conduct the pre-delivery quality inspection of the flats before being handed over from the builder for an individual home buyer. In one of the inspections, what I noticed was a serious lapse, where he has given the contractor interior works, and the interior contractor, while doing the false ceiling, the builder has provided a sprinkler inside each room. But unfortunately, by ignorant of the consequences, the interior contractor, while doing the false ceiling, he has made a small opening. The fire sprinkler pendant has got totally embedded in the fall ceiling. God forbid, if there is a fire, the sprinkler will not work. So the whole purpose is defeated. So these are some of the lapses which have to be taken care of.
There's another question by Mr. Ramakrishnan. I'm sorry, Mr. Markandan, please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name. Mr. Ramakrishnan KC, will you do structural audit and give solutions for seepage, etc., for a 15-year-old apartment?
Yes, we do it for the old apartments also. So there are a lot of things overlooked in old apartments. So what happens is, moment handover is done, and later what the association, I think all of you will definitely agree, the position of association office bearers is a thankless job, and most of them are busy, and they have to spare their personal time and run behind this. And if something is not noticed, gradually things would have got deteriorated over a period of time. And audit is definitely advised for older apartments where things have not been gone through in detail. There could be a lot of cases I have observed. There are a lot of cracks not attended to, like one of the seepage issue I showed in the basement. That also causes a lot of problems. And also in one of the cases, these pipes were entering the apartment complex. A lot of plants have grown, especially the banyan tree. It's not a tree, it's a plant, the seedlings. And even there's the people seedlings when they're done by the bird droppings. They grow and the roots enter into the building, creating a serious issue for all the flats. Not only it will chip off the plaster, it will not allow. It will also make the seepage issue seriously bad. So those things have to be inspected and then attended to.
There's another question by Mr. Radhakrishnan. Is there any professional support from BAF for helping the RWAs in handing over process with or without fee? We are looking for an agency to complete this process for us. I'm not sure if there is any support from BAF, but we are an agency that can help you. If you please share your email address or phone number on the chat, we will send you all the details that you want, and then we can carry on the conversation. We're happy to help you, Mr. Radhakrishnan. There's another question by
Vijay.
Sorry, I got disconnected. There's another question by Mr. Vijay. No, Mr. Vijay, nobody else has asked this question. Thank you for asking it. What are the documents that the developers would have to hand over to the apartment association? Mr. Suresh, do you want to answer this, please?
Yes, there are many documents. It's a huge list. Whenever we undertake an audit, we also help the association by providing a list of documents they should demand and take from the builder for a proper functioning of the. And one of the examples is the as-built drawing. See, as-built drawings are the drawings after the building is constructed. The original architect, the consultant, would have given you a drawing, and the buildings would have been started with that drawing. But as the construction progresses, there are a lot of deviations that are done. For example, the foundation depth may vary depending on the soil that is encountered with, and the cable trenches would have got deviated because of something coming in the way, or even the sewage lines, they would have got deviated because of some obstruction coming in the way. So these are all will be covered in the as-built drawing. So unless he hands over the as-built drawing to the association, you will not know where to dig in case of any problem with any sewage line, or in case of any electrical line has to be attended to, the electrical cable which are embedded, you will not know where to dig and how to find out. So all these are mentioned in the as-built drawing. So this is one of the very important document. Like this, there are many other documents. Some are required for the technical purpose, some are required for the statutory purpose. So all this will be listed out, added over, and once you collect them, some of them will be vetted also for the perfectness or the completeness. This is the part of the service. Yes, we do. Hope it answers.
Thank you. We also have, yes, Mr. Radhakrishna, thank you for sharing your email. We have, wow, we are overwhelmed. Thank you very much. We have a lot of people who have joined us and asked a lot of questions. I am trying to see, yes. Mr. Jagan asks, do you have any standard SLA agreement which covers the scope of the service agency? Could you please elaborate on what you mean by service agency, Mr. Jagan? Mr. Jagan, this is regarding day-to-day management of the apartment. You mean to say a facilities management organization, Mr. Jagan?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Jagan, we can connect you with facilities management organizations who can help you. We do not do facilities management. We are an engineering firm, and we will help you with taking over. The facilities management is done by our ecosystem partners. We have who we know, and we can connect you with them. If you could please share your email ID, we will send you the details. Thank you, Mr. Jagan. Thank you. We've got the email ID. We will respond to you. Mr. Jain, Mr. KP Jain, what are the solutions where the builder has handed over without OC and Khata some 10 years ago, and he does not respond, and we are facing issues with the BWSSB and PCB? Mr. Suresh?
Yeah. So this is actually a legal issue.
I think legal issue should be, as Mr. Suresh would have said, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in. This pertains to a lawyer. Like any doctor would say, please take only medicines after they are prescribed, even though we know what the medication is. Our request to you is please talk to a lawyer. Even though we may be able to tell you what things are, it is always better if it comes from the proverbial horse's mouth. Our humble submission is to, again, please talk to a lawyer. If you want us to connect you with anybody in our ecosystem, we will be happy to connect you. Mr. Jain, please share your email ID and we will put you across to the right people. Thank you.
Can I add?
Yes, Mr. Suresh, please.
See this, as I mentioned earlier in my talk, so association is the de facto owner of the project. Once the builder hands it over or doesn't hand over, since you are running it, it's your project. So you have to first sort out things with BWSSB and PCB, and then take up with the builder sort of as a sort of civil dispute. If he is not there, then it's our headache. We have to run it somehow. And if he is still partially answerable, we'll have to take it up legally with him and then take resolution. But waiting for him to solve may not happen, and we face the music from the authorities, because authorities do not care whether it is done by the builder or by the association. But since the association is already running the show and residents are already there, so in the interest of the residents, this has to be sorted out, and the issue to be addressed from the builder in a legal way. This is a sort of out of box response. Hope it answers.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh. Thank you, Mr. Montu. Thank you very much for the appreciation. Yes.
One more thing, I think there are some questions in Q&A.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. I'm looking at both of them. I'm coming to that. Right. Mr. Radhakrishnan has asked, normally, what is the time required for completing the handover process for a society of 550 flats with 4 towers and 2 basements? Just approximate time. Ms. Divya, would you be able to answer this, please?
Sir, we need at least. Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
please.
We need at least 6 to 7 weeks to complete the whole process.
6
the
to 7
inspection.
calendar weeks.
Yes, 6 to 7 calendar weeks.
Yes. Mr. Radhakrishnan, this is a ballpark figure because this is, as you said, a very approximated value based on the RFI that we send you and the information that we get and the site visit that we do. We'll be able to narrow down the answer significantly because once our discussion opens, we'll be able to look at the scope and give you a better answer. Thank you. And Mr. Pramod Krishnaya has asked, could you please help us out on the criteria for minimum number of flats for mandatory STP? Mr. Suresh?
Yes, there is a lot of standards laid down by the National Building Code, which gives you the design parameters, like how many flats are there, and per flat, what is the number of residents that has been assumed, and per resident, what is the amount of water that is going to be used. So there are a lot of numbers to this. So when you put in all these numbers, you arrive at the total discharge from the apartment complex in terms of liters per day. So kiloliters per day. As per that kiloliters per day is called as KLD. So based on the KLD, the STP is designed. So this is basically a design aspect. Yes, it will be done as per the National Building Code, and all these things have been set properly. So as Uday was telling, based on the RFI, there is a request for information. If we fill up all the particulars, then there are formulae and codal recommendation. Based on that, this can be arrived at.
If anybody would like to get in touch with us directly, I have shared our email and a WhatsApp number. Please feel free to reach out to us also in case you don't want to publicly share your email ID. We also have Mr. Alex who's asking, can builder hand over the project to association with unapproved or deviations from sanction plan with respect to key amenities?
No, he is not allowed to hand over. It's up to the association to take over or not. So in case if you notice that there is a lot of deviations, there are professionals who check for this compliance part from the statutory compliance part, and they will be able to help you certain things, whether it is deviated or not, and then based on that you have to take a call. This is basically again a legal issue.
Thank you, Mr. Alex. Mr. Vinay Tyagaraj, in large apartment complexes, various no objection certificates, clearances would be applicable. Is there an agency to read, understand, and guide the association that all applicable statutes are complied with?
Yes, we also do. That's called documentation audit, where the statutory documents, whatever has been produced by the builder to the association, we can go through them and tell them whether they're, first of all, is it valid? Is it okay as per law? I mean, not exactly law, it's as given by the statutory guidelines. For example, the clearance from the electrical inspectorate. So that needs to be read in conjunction with the number of lifts, the high tension HT transformer installed. So whether all the particulars have been properly mentioned. See, something like you don't take a clearance and then add something again. So these things can be verified, yes.
Mr. Umesh has asked, transformers maintenance, whose responsibility is it? BESCOM or apartment?
The transformers are the responsibility of the association. Earlier, long before, the BESCOM used to install transformers. So that has been done away with now more than 20 years, more than 30 years back, I think. Now, even in a private house where you take a HT connection with 4 or 5 apartments, sometimes the BESCOM insists that we buy our own transformer and install and get it cleared by them. We just cannot install and keep it because before it has been charged, that's a technical term. Charging is when you connect the electric supply, that has been inspected by the electrical inspectorate. There's another wing of it comes under the Ministry of Electricity. That has got nothing to do with BESCOM. It's an independent authority. They check, certify that the transformer and the installation, the wiring, everything as per as per the codal provision. And only once the electrical inspectorate clears it, then only the BESCOM will give connection. So the transformer is fully owned by the association. The maintenance is by the association.
Thank you. There's another question by Srinidhi. I wish to know at what stage of an apartment construction should the association or owners opt for an external auditing?
The ideal stage would be.
There are two parts. Sorry, Mr. Suresh, I'm interjecting. It's two parts. One is an individual apartment, and the second one is an RWA. So two parts.
First, let me address the individual apartment. The right time for inspection would be when the builder says the apartment is ready, please take over. Or maybe pay the final installment or come for registration. Take over and then come for registration, some people will say. And some people will say, get it registered and then take over. So depending on that stage, before you sign a letter saying that I have taken over the apartment, because from there onwards, the RERA Act kicks in. Because for the benefit of all, as per the latest RERA amendment, the builder is responsible for rectification of any defects, either in the structural or in the quality for the first 5 years from the date of handing over of the individual apartment.
Notwithstanding wear and tear.
Yeah, notwithstanding the wear and tear. So, so that the letter which you sign saying that I have taken over, so that marks one milestone. So before that, if the inspection is done, you can point out all the mistakes or the lacunae, get it rectified, then only you can take it over. That will not only will be a clean handover, you don't face any problems after taking over. And if something manifests after taking over, it involves a lot of messy repair. And many times you may not feel like calling somebody into an occupied apartment. Instead of that, you may either choose to live with it or get it done with a lot of discomfort. So all these things can be avoided if you take an inspection before you take over and move in. That is for the individual apartments. And as far as the RWA is concerned, here again, there is a maintenance period as per law about 60% occupation and all that. Then after that, builder says the association has to run on its own. Now I'm going to hand over and then go away. So that is the right time before you sign the documentation saying that we are going to take over. So the inspection is most advised. So all the lacuna, the deficiencies, the improper performances can be pointed out, got rectified, and then can have a clear takeover of the common facilities. Hope it answers.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh. There's another question. Mr. Bharat Hegde, in your experience, do builders correct problems found as part of the design audit? Mr. Bharat, in our experience, we have not found any discrepancy in a design that needed corrective measure from the builder at such a large scale that required any huge changes. But yes, since our report is objective in nature and not subjective, the builders are open to our suggestion. Mr. Suresh, you can add more.
Yeah, as rightly said by Uday, certain things. For example, in one of the apartment complexes, it was a conglomerate of 2 or 3 blocks. So each block was considered as a separate complex, and each block had a separate association. So the builder was continuously adding blocks by blocks, but has provided only a single STP for all the blocks to discharge their sewage into a single pipeline, and finally it gets treated in a single STP. The particular complex or RWA who engaged our services wanted to know what the contribution from their complex that is going to be accounted for. So for that, when we did, so they very clearly know that about 5,000 kiloliters per KLD capacity is required for their own complex. When the final builder connects the last block, they're able to put forth and check. See, discharge from my complex is so much. Will it be catered to, or will it fall short of it? These are the things. And in one of the cases, the genset. They wanted to make sure that the builder had promised that it has got a 50% backup. We call it 50% diversity factor. That means in a BESCOM supply, you'll be able to run everything 100% as per connected. But in case of a generator backed up supply, when there's no power supply from the BESCOM, you can run only 50% of the load. So that is, you put on current limiter, which will stop your circuit in case if you draw more than the allowed load. So they all wanted to make sure that the 50% backup, what has been assured by the builder, has been provided or not. So this design audit, when it was done, yes, it was proved that yes, it can cater to 50%. So it's like something making sure that things what have been promised have been delivered or not.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh. There's one more question by Mr. Raghavendra. Ms. Manat, it's 6 o'clock. You'll have to let us know until when we continue or not. So we will keep answering questions that are coming our way. Mr. Raghavendra has asked, we are transitioning from a builder-provided property management vendor to another one. How do we decouple property management vendor transition from takeover from builder? Are there a set of necessary documents that essentially qualifies as takeover by association from builder? Mr. Suresh?
Yes, sir. There are many documents with the builder.
It's a two-part question, Mr. Suresh.
Yeah. I'm coming from the bottom.
Okay.
So first is whatever the necessary set of documents. Yes, the builder will prepare a lot of documents to make sure that he walks out clean. So for that, formation of association is the responsibility of the builder first, and then the association has to run its own. So he will definitely make a lot of documents, which makes him absolved of claims in future. So all these documents have to be signed by the association office bearers, and this will be followed as per the Societies Act. So it will be a transition. So coming to the question of transition from the builder provided property management vendor to our own property management vendor. Yes, once the property management vendor was serving the builder, so once you're not happy with him or you want to change over, so you can always do it. So the best thing would be to appoint a new property management vendor, then from them make a proper handover from the first vendor to the second vendor. That is the right process. So that time, whatever is missing and whatever has not been properly handed over, the second vendor will be able to point out because he has to sign a handing over document. And one more thing is, talking about this handover documents for the association. This is a bit of a legal matter. There are legal professionals who are very well versed with the Societies Act, under which the apartment associations are registered. There are two acts, if I know. One is the Apartment Association Act, and another is the Societies Act. What I understand is, if it is registered under an Apartment Association Act, the compliances are less. So if it is done on Societies Act, the compliances are more, and more compliance means there is a chance of things running smoothly. It's better, but in long run, a lawyer will be able to give a proper idea about this, and it's always better to take the consultation from a lawyer who is very well versed with the Societies Act, so that none of the documentation of handing over is missed to avoid any problems.
Mr. Raghavendra, please feel free to reach out to us in our email, or if you share your email, we will send you the necessary contacts and information. Yes, sure, we can wrap up whenever we have. I think there's one more question that is there. Thank you, Mr. Raghavendra. How good or bad is the inspection report given by the Electricity Board and Safety Department on installations done at the property? Is this helpful to the RWA?
How good? Could you please repeat the question once more? I'm not able to see here.
How good or bad is the inspection report given by the Electricity Board and Safety Department on installations done at the property. Is it helpful to the RWA?
See, these are the statutory reports. See, first of all, for the electrical installation, this will be done by the electrical inspectorate. The connections will be given only if it is good. If it is bad, definitely the electricity board, BESCOM cannot energize the installation. So it has to be 100% compliant, then only BESCOM can give connection. So there is no question of good or bad, it has to be good. Then only things can run. Even the same case with the clearances for the STP by the Pollution Control Board, and also the same case with the fire department clearance. So without fire department clearance, we cannot occupy the building. So the occupation certificate, what is issued by the authorities, will the authorities BESCOM. So that takes care of all the compliance. Then only the occupation certificate is given. And just for my thing, like in case if deviation is noticed by Pollution Control Board, they have got all the authority to write to BESCOM to disconnect the power supply immediately. So that is the power given to the Pollution Control Board. They can disconnect the power supply and stop all the sewage lines and cripple the operation till the compliance comes to the OK level. Hope it answers.
Okay, we have some more questions here. Oh, wow. If no one comes forward to form an association, then what has to be done? I think this is a legal matter. Don't you think so, Mr. Suresh?
Yes, yes. It is a legal matter.
Yeah. Okay. Then the second one is the reason we are kind of hurrying up is because we've been asked to close up because it's almost time. So we're going to go through. Is conveyance deed mandatory from builder to association? Mr. Suresh, conveyance deed.
Yeah, conveyance deed, yes, it is required. As I told earlier, the association becomes the de facto owner of the property once the builder walks away. So all those things have to be done. And the lawyers, there are advocates who are specialized in this, who make sure that they have been doing this for a number of associations. And they also guide you on how to run the proceedings later, because association is formed under Societies Act. It will be like any cooperative societies. You'll have to convey the meetings, you'll have to have a board meeting, you'll have to have a general body meeting, and all these things will be monitored by the Department of Cooperative Department. That's a government department. So you'll be totally under their view, and any breach of that or any deviation, it will involve serious notices, and they will it will result in very serious consequences. So it's always better to engage a consultant, a legal consultant, who will guide you on all these matters of running the association in proper compliance.
We have one last question which we will take up now. Mr. Srinivasan, who is responsible for deviations from sanctioned approved plans? Builder, authority, or RWA? What are the implications?
See, who is responsible in the sense, authority has given you a drawing, approval for a particular drawing. So if you don't follow, that is you are responsible. So that's a builder. The builder is the one who is building. So his responsibility is to build it as per the approved plans or the sanctioned plans. If any deviation, he is responsible, definitely. So these things have to be made sure before the association takes over. Implications. When you're talking about implications, we keep saying many demolition drives being done in the newspapers. So these are the implications. If somebody has not followed particular norms, and tomorrow suddenly the government wakes up and they make a survey, and all the demolitions are ordered to be all the deviations are ordered to be demolished. So that is the implication. So have to be careful about these things.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Suresh. Thank you, Ms. Divya. Thank you, Mannat. And thank you, BAF, for organizing this. And most definitely, thanks a lot to all the participants who have come to this. Very, very kind of you. We have 44 participants. Very nice to see all of them. 40 attendees. Thank you very much. We will end the call now. We will
Thank you very
share
much.
with you. We will share with you with all your email IDs that have been shared. We will share with you all the information that was asked and also videos that may be useful to you. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Thank you,
God bless.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Manat,
Right.
hey Manat, when can I get a copy of the recording?
I'll just note down your email ID if you could provide me with it.
Yeah. Shall I type it out?
Yeah, definitely. I think that'll be better. Also, I have saved the chat so that it's easy for you to note down the email IDs of everybody. I can share that with you as well.
Yeah, can you just share that also? I've
Thank you very much.
shared the. Thank you, Manat. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll just...
Thanks. Well, it's nice to see positive feedback. A lot of them are saying terrific and nice. Thank you. Uh, Manat,
Yeah.
do we have any time frame in mind?